Today on the DNVR Rockies podcast, we are tackling the offseason. Where do the Rockies go first? Pitchers, hitters, who do they even start with? We're going to break that down today on the DNVR Rockies podcast with my boy, Noah Spirek. That's next. What's up, everyone? We are live from the Toyota Lounge here at the DNVR bar. It is a beautiful day. It is a Wednesday afternoon here, at least in my time. It's afternoon for Noah, too. Noah Spirek joining us on the podcast from some random hallway on Indianapolis or Indiana University. That's where you go to college, right?
Yep, IU.
There you go. Some random hallway out on the IU campus. Noah, first of all, thank you for taking some time, probably skipping class to join us on the podcast and talk a little Rockies ball.
No. In between classes, but I figured there's no better time to talk about Rockies baseball, and there's never really a bad time.
In case your parents are watching, we got to make sure we say, yes, Noah is doing his duty as a student. He's making sure he's doing this in between classes. He actually has to dip out a little bit early because he has to get to class like a good student. I got to say, Noah, though, before we get started, you're taking college a lot more seriously than I did. I think if it was me when I was going to school back in Gunnison back in the day, I might have missed classes probably a little at a higher clip than you did. So kudos to you for being a top of the line student.
Well, thank you, man. It's now here in my junior year already. It's gone by so fast, and I'm just kind of just chugging right along.
Junior year? What is that, like 19 years old now?
20,
the big 2-0. I love it.
Yes,
I love it. Hey, and we've talked about this before, so we won't get into it too much, but still super cool that you got to spend your summer at Coors Field and hanging out with the Rockies. That's why we love having you on the show. One of many reasons, because you were right there in the thick of it all season long. So it's a perfect segue into what we're talking about today on the podcast, which is, where do the Rockies go first this offseason? I've said it before. The Rockies need to have a very active offseason this year. They've already admitted, in my mind, that, coaching isn't the issue. The coaching isn't the problem with the Rockies. That, the reason you've had 6 consecutive losing seasons is because of the talent on the field. So now it becomes the question of, where do you go first? And so you've seen how the Rockies played out this year. You got to see how lacking the offense was for the team. You got to see the issues with the pitching. So I pose the question to you first. What do you think is the biggest area of opportunity for the Rockies to attack first this offseason? Is it pitching? Should they put more stock into their pitching prospects and developing their pitchers or getting new pitchers in this offseason? Or should they actually try to tie up some of the hitting issues that they have?
In my opinion, I think you go two ways, and I think the Rockies have the money to do this offseason. I would love for them to bring in a high-end back of the bullpen reliever, just to have someone that comes in and slams the door every single night. That would be super beneficial to a young team, and of course, I don't want to see the late innings get taken away from the young guys, but as they continue to develop and get better and major league adjusted, I think that would be helpful. And then on the offensive side, I think you've got to just sign guys that get the ball in play. The Rockies did finally hit more homers this season than they have in years past, and it really started in July. It was like a power surge, but it was great to see. But you have to be able to attack the areas of trouble, which were the Rockies struck out a lot, and they didn't really put the ball in play nearly enough for those situational at-bats.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you. And we've got Daniel Wagner in the Toyota chat. He makes a good point. He says pitchers for sure have solid hitters. They need to work on their plate discipline. I agree, Daniel, to what you're saying as well. I think, for me, like, I look at this in two ways. First and foremost, Rockies need to attack this offseason from a development standpoint. And Noah, you and I are going to talk in a moment about some of the prospects that, are needing to have an active offseason and some of the guys who are currently on the team that need to have an active offseason. I think when I'm looking at the current list of hitters out there, I think we've got a good hitting offense. If guys are competing at their full clip, if you get Nolan Jones back to a place where he can be competitive offensively, Brent Doyle playing well, if Tovar can get his strikeout rate and swing rate in order, Tolia getting his on-base percentage up, like these are all guys that have good pieces of their hitting perspective. They just need to get the full picture. I think the pitchers are where the question mark still lies for me, especially with the starting rotation. And I was kind of mentioning this to Kevin Henry, who Just Baseball writer, who was on the show with me on Monday. And I was like, I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm like, there's a lot of questions about whether or not this starting pitching rotation is going to look good at all this next year, because you've got German Marquez, who's coming off of an injury, hasn't pitched in forever. Senzatella got some starts towards the end of the year, but wasn't, where he felt he was the most confident, and needs to have a pretty intense offseason. Kyle Freeland was up and down. Cal Quantrill, we don't really know if he's even going to be back with the team next year. Like, there's a lot of question marks on, can this be a competent starting rotation? So do the Rockies opt to go and find starting pitchers, or do they go and say, you know what, we're going to really push hard on some of these Dolanders, Bradley Blaylocks, and try to bring these guys in if they have a good spring training? I think that could be a question as we get into this upcoming spring.
I would be surprised if they went out and spent big money on a starting pitcher, or brought in guys that are big name or even relatively large names. That's just not been something that they've been able to do. Number one, because obviously Coors Field is a hitter's haven and a pitcher's nightmare. So it's just tougher to bring those guys in, because they have to come in and acknowledge that your career ERA is going to be a little bit inflated. Even if you have the best year at Coors Field, that will just happen. I think in the past, we've seen them bring in guys like Jose Urena. I think if they were to sign a starting pitcher, it would be someone that's a little bit over the hill, like a Chase Anderson. He's another great example. Some guys that are a little bit older, but they can eat innings, because, like you said, there's a lot of Rockies pitchers that we hope will be healthy and able to contribute this year. But the past couple seasons, guys have gotten hurt a lot, and it's always good to have an innings eater to fall back on, as long as you don't overpay him.
Yeah. Well, you and I was on Blake Street Banner podcast with you like a month or so ago, and we were, and I had kind of brought that up, that point of, what does the starting pitching rotation look like in the coming months, coming years? And, you had made the point that, like, hey, there are a lot of guys in the rotation right now in the minor leagues that haven't made their appearance yet on a big league roster, but the Rockies farm system is filled with some pretty good potential pitchers. And I listed a couple of them. I was all in on Bradley Blaylock, although he struggled towards the end of his year with the Rockies. He had some really high upside and some good outings against, the Dodgers and the Yankees and some very good teams, the Brewers. Chase Dollander, we haven't seen yet in a big league uniform, but he obviously the top prospect for the Rockies. But this is a farm system that you have good starting pitchers. So I agree with you. This might be an offseason where we see the Rockies say, you know what? We're going to try to develop some of these young guys to get them to a big league level by next year, but we're going to approach the offseason by looking to pick up relief arms. And we've seen how I think that's gotten some of the confidence rolling for the team too, because towards the end of the year, the bullpen was actually the brightest spot on the roster, where you were saying, like, you're seeing guys like Shiviji, Luis Peralta, Jaden Hill, Seth Halverson, who were the highlight of that latter half of the season from a fan and analyst perspective. I think that confidence might build into an offseason where you go try to attack maybe a couple veteran arms and see if they can round out their career in Colorado. I do think, though, pivoting back to, we were talking about, needing to develop guys in-house. I don't necessarily see this being an offseason where the Rockies try to attack a big hitter per se. Another Chris Bryant. I just don't see that. I think they might be a little shell-shocked on what happened with the whole Chris Bryant contract. I think this is going to be an offseason where they try to really fine-tune Tolia, Jones, Romo, Goodman, some of these hitters that have potential but just haven't quite gotten their full swing underneath them. And I just see this being a year of improvements beyond just a competitive, making moves type of offseason.
Yeah, I love the guys that you listed and named there, and they're all guys that have shown strength or a great tool, whereas one of their other tools might be lacking a little bit. I think the best part about the Rockies is you don't know who might take steps that you have no idea about. I mean, think back to last season. Brenton Doyle, at the end of last year, he had a cemented role on this team just based on his defense, and he was the worst qualified hitter in the sport last year. Comes on this year, and I would argue that he was the team MVP. And so there can be developments like that. And so outside of just the guys that you named, there could be a surprise here and there, and the Rockies, fresh off a 100-loss season, would welcome that.
Yeah, totally. And also, there's this idea too that I think some guys are starting to find their stride, and I don't want to take away from that. Yes, the Rockies need to get better. They absolutely need to grow in this offseason. They're on the backs of 2 100-loss seasons, but there's been some bright spots, and we've talked about the defense recently. 3 Gold Glove nominations here, Gold Glove finalists between Doyle, McMahon, and Tovar. That's something that you can shine a positive light on, and the power is coming around for some of these guys. We had 4 players this year for the first time in I think since 2017, 2018. This was a year where 4 players hit 20-plus home runs on your roster. Now, again, the back end of that is you got to, work on the strikeouts, the on-base percentage and stuff like that. But I had said it to you actually earlier, about a month ago. Those types of things are going to happen. If you've got a team that's got a lot of good power hitters, you're also going to have a team that probably strikes out more than usual. I mean, look at the Yankees. The Yankees have one of the higher strikeout rates in the big leagues, and they're a potential World Series team, coming up here soon. And so, I'm not as worried about the hitting as I am about the pitching, because I think there's a lot that needs to be done before our pitching rotation can be competent. I think the hitters are just a few good guys kind of finding their rhythm away from figuring it out. There's just a lot more that needs to be done on pitching standpoint. So I want to get granular here and ask about some realistic goals. And Noah, you're always in the chat, on my shows saying, what's the goal for next year? Like, what do we need to be? Like, where's the placement at? What's the finish line where we say, like, that's the marker where we need to be next year for us to consider it a good season? I want to get granular a little bit and ask you, what are some successful next steps when it comes to, we'll start with the offense just to get specific, to look at next year and say, you know what, we're in a better place, that we can evaluate the team aside from wins and losses and say our offense took active steps to get better. What do you see needing to be their biggest focal point as a goal to get better for next year offensively?
I think it starts with something I've harped on, the strikeouts. You can't be dead last in baseball in strikeout rate and also be towards the bottom in walk rate. That just doesn't work. And when you play at Coors Field, maybe walk rate becomes even more important because the outfield is so big and there's so many bloop hits. And so all of a sudden a walk can lead to a run, a ball runs in the gap, and you're scoring from first a lot easier than you would in a smaller stadium such as Dodger Stadium. But the little things matter, and I won't get down to player specific goals, but as a whole, you have to get on base more. And once you're on base, another thing that I'd like the Rockies to do a whole lot more of is steal.
Yeah,
I think they do have the personnel to be able to be about middle of the pack to league average, and there's just no excuse for them to be finishing in the bottom 10, especially with a guy like Brenton Doyle. But ultimately, it all comes down to the strikeout rate and walk rate, and there is definitely a relationship there. And so if you can almost build an inverse, whereas you're dropping the strikeout rate, the walk automatically increases, that would be ideal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I even put this, I don't think this is a goal necessarily from a granular perspective, but I want to see more than just one all-star for the Rockies. I think they've got a team that could have easily 3 or 4 all-stars if they have the seasons that we know they can have. Ricky Torres in the chat, in the Toyota chat says, these guys have incredible upside. I agree with you. I agree with him. Like, some of these guys, if Nolan Jones comes back next year and has the year that he had his rookie year, he's an all-star next year, because of the type of player that he can be. Brenton Doyle, if he has the full, complete year that he had in the second half of the year last year, he's an all-star. Tovar, same deal. And so I think this is a situation where we could at least have 2, if not 3, and God, in a perfect world, even 4 all-stars going out into the all-star game next year. And so I want to see more than just Ryan McMahon. I think that speaks more also to the team in general. You want to get guys voted onto the all-star team, you got to win more games. You can't be dead last and kind of like a pity, vote. We're like, oh, we got to send someone for the Rockies. I guess we'll go with McMahon. I think the Rockies are in a position where some of the guys started getting some love nationally last year towards the end of the season. Brenton Doyle being a big one, in that category. If he can have a year that he had in the second half, I think he could be an all-star. If he starts strong next year. So real quick, though, we got to take a break. After the break, though, I want to talk a little bit about, the lack of communication that we've had with some of the Rockies front office after this season, given the losses that they had. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But we've got to give a shout out to one of our friends over at Blue Chew, because Blue Chew right now, they're working to help everyone boost their confidence in the bedroom. And, if you're looking to boost that confidence in the bedroom, you've got to check out Blue Chew. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, but they're a fraction of the cost, and it comes in a chewable form. And look, we all know how uncomfortable it is to talk about ED. We know, going to the doctor, that, sitting in the waiting room, it's just always uncomfortable. There's all that tension buildup. You don't want to be there in the first place. But with Blue Chew, it makes it easy and affordable and effective to have that conversation with a doctor all online. You can go online and you don't have to sit in the waiting room. You don't have to actually speak one-on-one in person to a doctor. You can take you can take a survey. You can talk to a medical provider, and they'll get you covered right there, all online. And the nice thing too is that you can get the pills day or night, the chewable pills day or night, so you can plan ahead and be ready whenever the opportunity comes up. So you know what they say? They say there's nothing sexier than confidence, and with Blue Chew, they help give you the confidence where it counts. Right now, we've got a special deal for our listeners. You can try Blue Chew for free when it comes when you use our promo code ALLCITY. That's all capital ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 for shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month for free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. I also got to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time, because Game Time makes buying tickets easier than ever, whether it's buying tickets to a sporting event, a concert, a theater, whatever you're into. It doesn't matter what it is. Game Time has you covered. There's some incredible deals going on right now on Game Time. They've got the Game Time Picks feature, which makes getting tickets easier and more affordable as you get closer to the game time, to the time of the game. It becomes cheaper. You can get tickets 30 minutes before Broncos game, and that's the cheapest you're going to possibly find them if you want to go see the Broncos play. I know Noah wishes he was in Denver getting to watch the Broncos play because he's a diehard Broncos fan, repping our guys out there in Indiana. But yeah, whatever you're into, Game Time has you covered. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Oh, my guy, Kale. He's back in business here. All right, let's bring it back. I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Noah. We didn't really hear a lot after this season ended from the Rockies front office. We saw a lot of other teams around Major League Baseball, especially teams that had, a season that they didn't expect to have. We saw we saw the White Sox owner, we saw the Cubs owner, Cincinnati owner made a statement. Even the A's, John Fisher made a statement, although he probably shouldn't have. But, there was some silence on the Rockies end after a historically bad consecutive season, and so I wanted to get your thoughts. I mean, was it weird to you that there was kind of radio silence from the Rockies side of things? It also took a while to make the whole Bud Black decision. I'm just trying to get like a vibe check of like, was it weird that for the fans and we are first and foremost fans of the Rockies to not hear from the team, or are you okay with that as a fan to say, you know what, like as long as we're making moves, like I don't really care. What was your vibes on just the way the offseason kind of started progressing after this first month?
Yeah, sure. At first, I was not surprised at all the way that the Rockies fans didn't hear anything from our owner, Dick Monfort. I think typically he sends out an email. I'm not sure if it's the start of the year or the end of the year, but it feels like every year, whenever it happens, I see it on Twitter, and that's how I find out. It goes to the season ticket holders. That's who it goes to. But I haven't seen that yet, so it must be at the start of the year. But, I mean, I honestly don't mind it because you saw, like you mentioned, the White Sox and A's owners both put out pretty tone-deaf stuff. Yeah, and that's only going to get you in trouble as an owner. And, then again, why fuel the fire? Social media is already bad enough as it is in the losing season. But I think it was very weird how the Rockies went about the Bud Black extension because nothing was announced as soon as the season ended. It kind of felt like Buddy was coming back simply because you wouldn't fire a guy randomly like a month into the offseason. But for him to be coming back is honestly, social media is going to do what it does, and we saw that in Rockies Twitter, a whole lot of overreacting. I don't mind Buddy coming back. I think in the state that the franchise is in, it will be interesting to see, realistically when the Rockies next compete 2 or 3 years from now, if Buddy's still the guy because he's only inked for one more year. So that it'll be interesting then, but I don't think it's very interesting now because this team, we hope it improves, but realistically, we can't be expecting a postseason run.
Yeah. I mean, we all hope for a Royals or Texas Rangers type of run, last year out of the Rockies. But yeah, being realistic, you also have to remember we're playing in the toughest division in the history of baseball, in my mind. I truly believe the NL West in these last couple years, especially this year, could be argued as being one of the toughest divisions in the history of baseball, given the competitiveness of the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Dodgers, and even the Giants being in there as like a 500 team that wasn't even close to the postseason this year. So, it's going to be tough to get themselves back to a place where, even a 500 season gets you to the postseason. Now, you and I have said it before. I will 1,000% take a 500 year next year for the Rockies. Rockies miss the postseason next year, but have a 500, record. I'm all for that. That is music to my ears. That also means there's probably some competitive baseball being played into the month of September, and that's a beauty. That's something we haven't seen in Colorado in a long time. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because it's interesting seeing how some teams are handling this offseason already. Teams that aren't in the postseason, how they're handling the offseason. So I wanted to throw that out there. I do want to pivot though away from the Rockies here because there's a lot of other baseball stuff going on, and I know we only get you for a short chunk of the show. So. I wanted to throw some, I don't know if this is breaking news, but it's an interesting news topic out there. I don't know if you saw, Noah, the damage that was done to Tropicana Field after the hurricane out there. They did announce, I think yesterday or the day before that Tropicana Field is not going to be ready for opening day on March 27th. So the Rays' home venue for playing games is currently up in the air, which is insane to me. Obviously, when you look at the picture on your screen and you see that, you're like, oh, well, duh. Like, there's no chance that's going to be ready anytime soon. But what the hell are they going to do out in Tampa for games this year? I have no idea how you even approach this upcoming year. And, I mean, as I'm saying this, do the Oakland A's do the funniest thing in the world and open up the Coliseum for the Oakland Rays now to play their games there? Like, what do we do? Like, that's such a weird thing that I think is being overlooked right now because we have other, topics to talk about in baseball. But the Rays don't have a home venue right now.
Well, and what are the odds that the Rockies are the team scheduled to play there on opening day? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
that's crazy. And so now all of a sudden the Rockies don't know where their first stop is going to be on the 2025 season, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, devastating stuff happening down
Who,
there. And I
who
just,
who's the Tampa Bay Rays AAA team? Tampa Bay Rays AAA team. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not a big Tampa Bay Rays guy, but
yeah,
it's the Durham Bulls. Is that the Durham Bulls? Am I correct in saying that? Yeah, it's the Durham Bulls. So is there a chance? I mean, because I said it about like Oakland jokingly opening up the Coliseum for the Rays, but I think more realistically, you're either putting them in a AAA stadium that can accommodate that, or do they play a spring training type of game for opening day? Like, or do they go play a road game for opening day? I mean, so you're saying that, the Rockies are playing against the Rays on their opening day. Does that shift and instead end up being an opening day here at Coors Field? Like, I just have, or do they play at an open ballpark close to there? Like, there's so many questions there, and obviously we'll get more answers as it gets closer and closer to that time. But it's just such a weird thing. And I remember when I saw all of that happening, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, well, that's crazy, but also like there's got to be there's going to be a way for them to fix that before the season gets going. And then you see the actual like aftermath, and you're like, oh God, like there's no way. I don't know if they're even going to have a venue at all this year.
I was surprised to hear that they wouldn't be ready to go for opening day because it feels like it's so far away, about 5 months. But like you said, Tampa's in a unique location because half of the league plays spring training, like right in Florida. So I'm guessing if they were to do anything, I don't think they'd give the Rockies an extra home series. I think they would just honestly play at a temporary spot, at a spring training spot.
Yeah, maybe. That sucks. I mean, the Rays already have a fan base that's 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and that that definitely doesn't help. So I want to get to another break real quick here because I do have one more segment that I want to have with you on the show here before you got to go here. So I want to give a shout out to our friends over at ZBiotic because ZBiotic makes it easier to bounce back from a night of drinking. Easier than ever right now. And we all know as you get older, it becomes harder and harder to get back up on the horse, as they say, when you go out drinking with friends. But you still want to be able to go out and have a good time with friends, and or even just enjoying some time off. The weekend comes up, maybe you're going to a watch party here at the DNVR bar, and you want to let loose a little bit. Well, you got to check out ZBiotics pre-alcohol, because with ZBiotics pre-alcohol, it's the world's first genetically engineered prebiotic invented by PhD scientists to tackle the rough mornings after drinking. Basically, it releases this enzyme to help break all of those toxic byproducts down in your gut. Makes it easier for you to get back up on the horse after you've gone out and drinking with friends. So make the most out of the rest of your fall. Stock up on some pre-alcohol now. Head over to zbiotics.com/DNVR Rockies. You can get 15% off your first order. They are backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll give you your money back, no questions asked. Remember, that's zbiotics.com/DNVR Rockies to get 15% off your first order. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and for sponsoring our good times. Also got to give a shout out to our friends over at Coors, because Coors Light is the most cold and refreshing beer out there. My personal favorite light beer. Anytime I'm going out, whether I'm going to a watch party here at the DNVR bar tomorrow to watch the Broncos beat up on the Saints, or if I'm going out to a baseball game or hanging out at home with some friends, whatever it is, hanging out on the porch with my dogs, Coors Light is always my go-to because it is the most refreshing light beer. And, my favorite thing about Coors Light is that it goes well in any environment, whether you are just, like I said, out at a sporting event, sitting on the porch with your buddies, going camping, whatever it is, it's just a good vibe. It fits with our vibes here at DNVR. It fits with the vibes of any environment. So make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Crack open a nice, cold, refreshing Coors Light beer and embrace that chill mindset. That's what we're trying to do here on the show, especially this week. We're trying to choose chill here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. And right now you can get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instant Cart by going to CoorsLight.com coors.com/DNVR. Please celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, based in our backyard here in Golden, Colorado. All right, Noah, you got 5 minutes left before you have to skedaddle onto your being a productive student. So I wanted to do a segment because there's been a lot of conversations this postseason about broadcasters. And, we've had some good broadcasters. We've had some bad broadcasters this postseason. So I want to ask you, what's your favorite all-time broadcaster, not affiliated with your team? No Rockies broadcasters here, although we love our Rockies broadcasters. Your favorite all-time broadcaster for watching baseball?
I like Brian Anderson. He still does
BA.
Yes, sir. He still does the postseason, and I believe during the regular season, he's the Milwaukee Brewers play-by-play guy.
That is correct.
But I've always been a fan of him, and especially during March Madness, which not baseball, but he rocks on college basketball too. So he's versatile, and I think that's really cool for any broadcaster. BA
was actually, I don't know if he still is, but when I was one of the agencies that I used to be a part of. As a broadcaster, my agent was also his agent. And so I used to always see him pop up and be like, hey, my agent is the same agent as BA. So that was always a cool little thing. BA is clutch. He's always incredible. He's doing the Guardians Yankees series right now. I always say Dan Schulman is my GOAT, does, Blue Jays games now, but he used to be the voice of Sunday Night Baseball. And just that iconic low voice and also another March Madness guy. He had your Indiana team. What was it? That Indiana game. Oh, what was that game that he was on the call with Dick Vitale. And it was a historic, it was a crazy Hoosiers game. And it's just like a clip of him screaming, and you hear Dick Vitale in the background going yes.
Yeah. I love any broadcast involving Dick Vitale. There's going to be some background yelling, just like he's a fan. It's hilarious.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Yes. So Dan Schulman's my guy. I can't go wrong with Dan Schulman. I actually am I don't know. I want to know your thoughts on this before you got to go. Joe Buck. I love Joe Buck as a broadcaster. I know he gets some hate for the baseball stuff, but he's the voice of the World Series for me growing up. And so I grew up, listening to Joe Buck and also, the Super Bowl and, he's an iconic broadcaster. So some people hate him. Some people love him. I'm a Joe Buck guy.
I didn't used to be. And I think a lot of people are that way. I don't think that's a hot take, but I think
it's not.
He used to be really monotone, and that was just kind of his style. That's what worked. And he's adapted to now he's one of the most energetic guys. And sometimes on Monday Night Football, the dude's just hilarious. But when I think of the World Series, I think back to the 2017 one, in my opinion, the best World Series I've seen in 20 years. The Dodgers and Astros. And that is specifically Game 5, Joe Buck just had some incredible calls. And I do still wish that he was doing the World Series. Not because Joe Davis is bad. I just associate Joe Davis with the Dodgers.
I 100% agree with you. I've said that before on the show. The Joe Davis, no shade on Davis. He's an incredible broadcaster. But he's calling Dodgers games nationally, and he's also calling Dodgers games throughout the whole season. There's naturally gonna be some level of engagement to a higher degree with the Dodgers than with the other teams. I don't want to take you any longer. Noah, appreciate it, man. Run off to your classes. Thank you as always. It's always a pleasure having you on the show, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on, and probably be back soon.
Yeah, of course. We'll have you on off season every single day in between classes. Good stuff,
see
man.
You later, man.
Yep. See you later. I got to go back to the whole Joe Buck thing. Joe Buck on this, what was it? This day 9 years ago, the Giants, Travis Ishikawa hit his game-winning, his walk-off home run against, oh God, who did he hit it against? I think it was Arizona, maybe? I might be wrong on that one. St. Louis. It was St. Louis. He hit a walk-off home run against St. Louis, and Joe Buck had that incredible call of just, pretty much saying the Giants win the pennant and then allowing the crowd pop to just go for 2 minutes. And sometimes the best broadcasts do that, where the moment happens and you just sit back and you just let everything transpire around you. That's an incredible moment. Adam Amin does another guy who does a really good job. He is an incredible broadcaster. He is the Chicago Bulls broadcaster during the NBA season. I don't know if Adam Amin, I don't know if he calls games for baseball normally throughout the year. I'd like to say that he does, but he might actually be one of the Braves guys. I don't know. Adam Amin does a good job. My least favorite broadcasters, though, Karl Ravech, by a long shot. Karl Ravech, to me, is the most annoying guy, especially when he calls the home run derby. And I don't want to shade him too much on the home run derby thing, because I'm sure that's one of the hardest things in the world to do. And also, he had to be the broadcaster who had to fill the shoes of Chris Berman, who was the iconic, back, gone. Like that's the iconic home run derby voice right there. So Karl Ravech had some big shoes to fill, but he's just really annoying to me. Matt Vasgersian, MLB Network, also does, I think, the Little League World Series. He's another one of those guys for me that I'm just like, I don't know. Like, he's had some good calls. I think from a technical broadcasting perspective, Matt Vasgersian has done a good job. But again, kind of annoying. He gets really high for me, like tone-wise. Like his vocal tone goes really high, and I don't know you guys have probably already figured this out by now. Like, I like broadcasters with a little more oomph behind their voice, and so Matt Vasgersian, he's just not my guy. But Karl Ravech, he's like nails on a chalkboard to me sometimes. So I can't really go with him. I wanted to pose the follow-up question to you guys, though, if you guys are hanging with me in the chat. Who's the current player now that's active on an MLB roster that is most likely to become a broadcaster when they retire? And I was talking about my former agent, and actually the reason he's now my former agent is because he retired from his agency that I was formerly a part of, and now is representing. He works for an agency that represents athletes making the transition into on-air roles, which is such a niche thing. So that's why I asked that question, because there is obviously Tom Brady, being a perfect example, is a huge conglomerate of athletes who wrap up their careers and now go to become a broadcaster, whether it's play-by-play or color analyst. The guy that stands out to me as someone who I think could, I don't know if he will, but he could, just given that he's already pretty much turned his career into a broadcasting career while simultaneously still being a player. Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is on a podcast. He hosts his podcast like every day when he's not playing. Like, even when he is playing, he'll go and do his podcast after a game. And he does a great job. Mookie Betts, I don't know if he'd want to be on like an MLB Network kind of vibe. Like, sometimes the podcast is like more flexible than being like in a traditional TV outlet. Justin Verlander seemed like he could be he'd be a good presence on air. He'd be one of those guys that I think could do a really good job making that transition into an on-air role. And I think that could be coming sooner than later. I think sports is just wild, though, because look at what's happening with Tom Brady and his deal right now. And I want to pull this up on Twitter, actually. I didn't plan on talking about this, but I was tweeting about this yesterday. So Tom Brady got approved to be the minority owner for the Las Vegas Raiders. But he's also just signed that insane, $400 million deal with Fox. Is that with Fox, right?
Yeah, it's with Fox.
It was like $375 million, I'm pretty sure, which is insane. Tom Brady... It is more. Yes, and which is why players do that. Like, they have more lucrative deals. Pedro Martinez is making more money doing his post-game show with MLB Network and Fox Sports 1 and all of that than he did when he was playing. Romo, too. And Romo's kind of fallen off a little bit, too. Like, his hype was there in the beginning when he was predicting every single play, but, like, now it's like, I don't really know. But here's what I wanted to say about Tom Brady. So Tom Brady gets approved to be the minority owner of the Raiders. Well, you have certain responsibilities. There's legal responsibilities you have as an owner of a team that doesn't carry over into being a broadcaster. So here's the restrictions. In being the owner, the minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, and being a now professional broadcaster, Tom Brady is now no longer permitted to step foot in another team's facility during the season. He is not permitted to witness practice. He's not permitted to attend broadcast production meetings, either in person or virtually. That's a huge one. He's prohibited from publicly criticizing game officials and other clubs. Another big one. He's subject to the NFL's gambling policy. That's whatever. And he's subject to the NFL's anti-tampering policy. What that means to me is that Tom Brady can't be a broadcaster. There's no way that you can be a successful, competent broadcaster if you are not able to be in production meetings, virtually or in person, ever. And you're also prohibited from criticizing the officials. I said this on Twitter. I was like, I've accidentally criticized an opposing team or officials. Like, sometimes you do it not even realizing that you're doing that. That's just part of being an analyst. Like, you're saying, hey, I don't agree with this coach's decision to do this, this, and this. That's your job as a broadcaster. So Tom Brady, I don't think he can do his job as a broadcaster. Like, what is it? Kevin Burkhardt usually gets partnered up with Tom Brady. How am I feeling if I'm Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady shows up like, hey, sorry, man, I missed all of our production meetings because I'm not allowed to go. Can you fill me in? You know, like, it's just so weird. That's so fishy to me. I don't like that. I don't like the overlap. Like, Tom, dude, you're a rich guy. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, whatever the saying is. That's probably not the way you say it. But, like, you can't do both. Is that the saying? Did I get it right? Okay, it sounded weird. I felt maybe my brain's a little fuzzier. I don't know if that was right. You can't do both, man. Like you either become an owner or you be a broadcaster. You're making a boatload of money either way. So it doesn't matter. It's a good investment either way you go. But I just I have a hard time with this whole like back and forth thing from him. And as a broadcaster, like, you can't do that. You can't survive a broadcast without criticizing the officials, even maturely, even in a like professional way. It's just how it goes.
I think this is really tricky because I think it puts Fox in a tough spot because they didn't have any knowledge of the Raiders thing when they signed him to that deal, and I think that money's guaranteed.
It is. And
so what does Fox do?
And here's the other side of it.
$400 million.
Here's the other side of it. Who's policing this? Like, who is someone? Because again, I think some of these things can be broken. Some of these rules can be broken unintentionally, where he just goes and he starts talking about a bad call out on the field that any broadcaster does. And next thing, like, is the league reaching out, fining Tom Brady? Are you saying he's now kicked out as a minority owner? He's no longer allowed to who's policing this? So it puts Fox in a bad spot. I think it puts the league in a bad spot. And it definitely puts Tom Brady in a bad spot. Like, you've got an unlimited amount of money. Why put yourself and those around you in that position?
Well, the other thing is, like, Tom Brady is an incredibly driven, successful guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, the greatest football player of all time. You would assume he wants to be good at this. That's the reason he's doing it, is he wants to be good. And I think,
and
like
I think
you said, and I think he could be. I think this hampers his ability to be a competent broadcaster. And like, how do you develop something? I mean, as you know, and I don't do play-by-play, but I obviously am a producer. Those production meetings pre-game are so essential for developing broadcast and learning things about what's going on inside the locker room and all that. All those things that add to the broadcast. How is he able to be good at that without those moments?
Some of those broadcasts, just to cue you guys in at home on how some of this behind-the-scenes stuff works, some of those broadcasts go, especially the national NFL broadcast, they go for $5 to $10 million in production value. And that's not including ad revenue and all of that kind of stuff, in how much it costs to actually put on a broadcast of that level. And so if you are investing that much money into the product that you're putting out there, and you have a guy who's there and unintentionally is not prepared, like that they put a ton of preparation into that to make sure that guys, those production meetings, they have multiple production meetings, they have coaches meetings, they meet with players. Like, it's a big deal. The players on the field and the coaches, like, a lot of these guys make the money that they make because of the TV deals that these teams have and the revenue that teams get from TV. So it's insane to think. And I guess where I just get all caught up with the whole Tom Brady thing is, go be an NBA owner. Go be a, I don't know, an XFL owner if you want to stay in football. Go be a, and I think he also bought in on the one of the WNBA teams. Like, go do all of those things. Just stay out of the NFL until you retire as a broadcaster. Like, that's all. So anyways, I digress. Let's take a break here. And then we'll wrap up the show. When we come back, I want to give. We're on a broadcasting show today. We got to talk about some wild stuff that the Yankees play-by-play guy John Sterling had to say about the game last night. But before we get into that, got to give some love to our friends over at Breck Distillery. Breck Distillery is the GOAT. They are the best bourbon. One of the best bourbon whiskeys that I've ever tried. And I'm a bourbon guy. And I think for me, it just. The reason that I love Breck Distillery so much is because they fit the vibes that we have. And I've talked so much about vibes on the show. Breck Distillery, I mean, they're at our tailgates. They're down here in the bar. Their logo is sick. Their bourbon tastes incredible. It's just a great vibe. Like, anytime Breck Distillery is there at a tailgate, at a watch party, even if it's in your bar at home, it's good vibes. And and now that winter's coming around too, I don't know if you guys felt this. It was a little chilly this morning. That is when it's the best to drink bourbon. Now, look, I'm a season round bourbon drinker. I'll drink bourbon even if it's 100 degrees. You just kind of mix it with some different things. But let's be real. Bourbon whiskey is best when it's a cold, frosty evening. You never know. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but evening out there, and you're trying to warm up before you go to a pumpkin patch or something like that. That's when bourbon is the best, and it's fall here in Colorado, so you gotta get involved with our buddies at Breck Distillery. We've also got some incredible tailgates coming up right around the corner for the DNVR Broncos and Breck Distillery. We're gonna have plenty of Breck Distillery out there for you guys to try. So yeah. You can eat at their award-winning restaurant. You can try some of their award-winning cocktails. Breck Distillery is where it's at. Enter to win 2 tickets to Denver Broncos games right now in the Breckenridge Bourbon Whiskey Suite, which sounds like an incredible deal. Share how you celebrate the Broncos by posting your photos to social media using #BroncosBourbon. Also use code DNVR at checkout for free shipping on all orders over $99. Learn more at BreckenridgeDistillery.com. Also got to give a shout out to our friends over at Circle K, because at Circle K, they're not just a gas station. They're an all-around place to go. They're a destination place, as I like to call them. They're the destination gas station in my mind, because you can go there, you can get food, snacks, drinks, and gas. It's good vibes. It's a good time. I actually stopped at Circle K on the way to work here today. Got some good drinks, some cold, nice, refreshing cold drinks before I headed over to the studio. They've got snacks. And right now, like I said, it's more than just a gas station. You can also get involved in their Circle K Inner Circle free membership. You can enter your email and phone number. You're fully enrolled. It's free. After all that, all you got to do is put your phone number in, just like you do at like a grocery store, and you put your phone number in when you check out at the grocery store, and you get discounts. And Circle K has some incredible discounts, deals on food, drinks, snacks, gas, and more. So sign up for the Inner Circle with the Circle K app and receive 25 cents off per gallon on your next 5 fill-ups. Find it all in the app under Circle K and offers. Download the Circle K app and sign up for that Inner Circle for exclusive offers, new offers, purchase clubs, and sweepstakes are all uploaded weekly. All right, we're gonna bring it back here. Want to give you guys an update. Noah Spirek, who was just on the podcast, he did confirm that he made it to class on time. What a nice, productive little student we have that likes to join our show. Noah, good on you, man. I got to share this. Marissa just walked by just a moment ago. When I was in college, my senior year, I missed maybe 50% of my classes, at least. I hope my mom's not watching this. It wasn't good. And the classes that I did make it to, Marissa graduated. My wife, Marissa, she graduated college the year before me. And her and I are both communications majors. So we both had the same classes pretty much in our senior year. And I'm not going to lie, she did do my homework on the majority of my classes in the remainder of my senior year. So much so to the point where I was actually getting A's on like assignments that she would just kind of mix up a little bit. And I was getting A's on these assignments, and I would have actual classmates who were like actually trying and doing their assignments. And they would come up to me like, dude, how are you getting A's on these? Like, these are hard, like communication theory type essays and articles. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm just feeling good about this. I'm really understanding what media ecology is all about. The media practicum theory, Marshall McLuhan, Neil Postman, all of those things. I really get it. I did not. Marissa understood it. And so shout out to all of our friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, whoever we have that helps us get through college. You guys are the GOATs. You make it possible. I wasn't one of those people. I was not one of those people, man. But good for you. If you made it through college without any help on your homework, good for you. Hey, look, we were talking about broadcasters here, and I don't know if you guys saw this, the Yankees game. The Yankees brought John Sterling, who is their legendary play-by-play, radio play-by-play guy. I think he used to do TV too. But he's a little old, but he came out of retirement to broadcast this postseason run for the Yankees. And he was on the call on radio last night for the Yankees-Guardians game. And if you guys watched that game yesterday, you saw that the Yankees made some egregious base running errors. And that's putting it lightly. Let's listen to what John Sterling had to put it, because he put it a little more harshly to talk about what the base running mistakes looked like for the Yankees last night. Let's take a listen.
The 0-2, a bouncer, and Rizzo is going to be picked off. He's in the middle between second and third. Hedges now throws to second, on the way to third, back to second, back to third, tagged out, end of inning. Boy, if that wasn't the Yankees, that's what they do, run the bases like drunks. Well, Glaber will lead off the next inning.
That's the most like old fart way to broadcast a game, and I absolutely love it from John Sterling. Dude's just like, well, they run the bases like a bunch of drunks. So Glaber Torres got the next inning. Take a commercial. We'll be back. It's like, what a great call, man. And also the Yankees won that game. So he's just having fun. Dude comes out of retirement, goes and calls the Yankees a bunch of drunks, gets to call a home run for Aaron Judge in the postseason. Yankees might be going to the World Series, folks. I'm calling it now. I think the Yankees are the real deal. They are killing it. And the Guardians look like Guardian garbage. They are terrible. Rocchio dropped. First of all, Gold Glove finalist out there. Dude drops a routine pop fly in the infield, and it scores a run. Never recovered from that point on. I don't know who the right fielder is. I forgot his name. Goes to pick up a base hit. If he had just fielded the ball with his freaking glove, he throws to home, keeps a run from scoring. Different situation. Tries to grab it with his hand instead. Drops the ball. Run scores. Like, what are we doing? So Guardians, dude, they got to figure something out. Guardians need some real Hunter Pence type pep talk. And I'm going way back here, with get everyone together in the dugout in the clubhouse, get the guys fired up, because they need to turn their lives around. They're down 2-0 to the Yankees in Cleveland, going back to Cleveland. Like, if they don't sweep this Cleveland series, they're in trouble here. And they've got some contemplating to do in these next few days. They do have a day off. So like I said, wipe those slates clean for the Guardians and get set, because we've got a Mets and Dodgers game tonight. And God, the Mets and Dodgers have been so fun to watch. Someone asked me this question on Twitter. the other day, who's more of a David and Goliath story this LCS series? Is it the Mets and the Dodgers and the Guardians and the Yankees? I think they were trying to lean more towards like Mets and Dodgers because the Mets have had just such an improbable run to the postseason. But I remind folks that the Mets have the number one payroll in all baseball. They've spent $300+ million this year. I'm not saying that the Mets are a David team when you spend $300 million in a given season. Yes, some of their guys have been hurt. It took them a little bit longer to get hot. Like, sure, there's some back end stuff that like has kind of made them on paper or on the field more of a David and Goliath story against the Dodgers. And the Dodgers are the Dodgers. Like they spent over $1 billion this offseason. They are a Goliath for sure. But the Guardians are one of the lowest payrolls in all baseball. They spent $106 million this year. The Yankees spent close to $300 million again this year. I think the Guardians and Yankees, like that's the David and Goliath story. If the Guardians can come back and win and get to the World Series, that is the David and Goliath story. And my God, would that be terrible for baseball? I would hate that. Like, I'm being realistic here. We're talking about how great the ratings have been. Give me Dodgers, Yankees in the World Series. I hate both of them. And so does the rest of the world. And we would love that. We look at the Dodgers and Padres series. We hated both of those teams. And I think we watched every game. Rockies fans were locked in my mentions watching every game. I would gladly watch two of my least favorite teams beat up on each other in the World Series. Guardians and Mets, like, what? I don't care about that. I don't care about that. Nope. That's the two biggest fan bases. And you have all of Japan watching for Shohei Ohtani. So not only would you have all of America watching, you would have all of Japan watching. Like, and all the gimmicks that the Mets have had, sure, that's cool and all. But if it was New York versus New York, Subway Series, whatever. Like, that's fine. But if you remember back to when the Subway Series happened last, I don't remember what year was that, 2004, 2005? Something like that. It was a long time ago. It's like 10 years or 20 years ago. Those ratings were terrible. Like, yeah, New York loved it, but no one else did. And Kale, you weren't with me on TDSP yesterday, but I was talking about this. The mayor of New York, Eric Adams, who's in some hot water right now for corruption. Not great. He was in trouble now from Mets and Yankees fans because he wore a politically correct dual logoed New York Mets and New York Yankees logo. That's terrible. That's like someone wearing that's like the governor of Colorado wearing a CSU football hat. It is worse than that, actually. But I think CU and CSU people would feel that way, where you're like, what the hell are we doing? Like, why? Take that off. Burn it. Put that in the ground. Why is that on your face? What is on your face? So, the mayor of New York, yes, needs to figure out his corruption trial. That's a start. But also, never wear a New York hat ever again. Hey, real quick before we wrap things up, previewing the game today. It's a great game today. Walker Buehler. Some question marks surrounding Mr. Buehler. He gave up 6 runs in 1 inning in his last start. He's on the bump for the Dodgers. Luis Severino giving up 3 or more runs in 5 consecutive starts. Big question mark for Luis. Now, Severino did have a good last game of the last series. I'm getting my series is all mixed up here. But that's going to be an interesting matchup between those two guys on the hill. And Dodgers and Mets all even at 1-1. Mets have home field advantage back at Citi Field. First LCS back at Citi Field in a beat. It's going to be huge. New York is going to be rocking. That's going to do it for us. It is 1:14. We made it. We did it, folks. That's going to be it for our shows this week too. I'm heading out of town, getting out into Montana this weekend. Going to go watch some Montana hockey. My buddy plays hockey out there in Montana. They're playing Boise State. That's going to be a lot of fun. We got B-Ray in the chat saying, yo, up the Pids. Hey, Dwayne is just walking by. He's got a big up the Pids for you. He's hyped for you. So I know it's not Rockies, but I will shout out our Rapids. Go Rapids, man. They're getting ready for the playoffs here. We're feeling good. We're feeling good in Colorado. Hopefully this weekend is a better weekend of sports in Colorado because last weekend sucked for Colorado sports. That's going to do it for us here. I got to get off the air. You guys, thank you for being our awesome producers, our awesome team here. And thank you guys in the chat. We always appreciate everyone hanging out with us this afternoon. This has been the DNVR Rockies podcast. You can follow us on Twitter on DNVR_Rockies, myself on Twitter at CJJ Saez. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good rest of your week.
We all silly like the mayor.